Okay, so let's begin with story. All my webinars start with this picture. What do you see on screen? If you can type in the chat box and let me know, what do you see on screen? A roller coaster. Everybody sees that? Roller coaster, roller coaster. Yes, roller coaster. Yes, roller coaster, roller coaster. Yes, this is the picture that I always put up front as I begin a webinar on fiction writing, because according to me, stories are nothing but a roller coaster of emotions. What does a writer do? What does a writer aim for? एक राइटर करता क्या है? एक राइटर अपनी ऑडियंस को इमोशन के इस लेवल से पकड़ता है, उसको इमोशन के हायर लेवल पे ले जाता है, फिर नीचे ले जाता है, फिर ऊपर ले जाता है, फिर नीचे ले जाता है, और एक हाई पर ले जाकर के छोड़ देता है. दिस इज व्हाट अ राइटर डज. ही पिक्स अप हिज ऑडियंस फ्रॉम अ सर्टेन लेवल ऑफ इमोशंस एंड देन ही टेक्स हिम higher, then goes down, then higher again, then down again, and then leaves him somewhere on a high note. So stories are nothing but a roller coaster of emotions, and this is what every fiction writer must master before he can even think about selling a story. So we are going to come to that, but first we should understand what a story is. A story is a roller coaster of emotion. But that's not all. People come to stories for excitement, entertainment, adventures. Yes, but stories have a magical power too. It's a mysterious power. Come to think of it, 10,000 years of human history, and stories are not dead yet. They are going stronger and stronger by the day. Why? Because stories have a magical power. It started in the Stone Age when people were drawing on the stones. As centuries passed, newspapers came in, then television came in, now web has come in, but stories don't die because there is a magical power. And what is that magical power? So I want to show you a video here.
Picture our lives on a round, rocky blue planet we live, that goes around a ball of fire at a speed which we can't even imagine. It is our home, yet sometimes we do feel lost here, searching for something, perhaps a moment of joy or a moment of excellence, a day of achievement or a night of comfort. We are in this pursuit together, all of us, every single one of us. We toil on our farms together, we toil in our factories together, and we toil in our offices together with a belief that one day we will all have a kind of life that we dream of. And then, once in a while, someone comes along who does something extraordinary, says something different. He gives us something that makes our lives a little better than it was the day before. But the real impact of his thoughts, his actions, his inventions, his philosophy is seen elsewhere. It is not he who changes the world, it is his story which does. A timid-looking lawyer who was thrown out of a train for having brown skin. A man who could live without anything but freedom. Ignited a generation of leaders who uprooted a powerful empire. It is not Mahatma Gandhi who changes the world. It is his story which does. An orphan who was abandoned at birth by his own parents. A man who was fired from his own company. Went on to become the biggest inspiration for a generation of new millennium. It is never Steve Jobs who changes the world. It is his story which does. Stories change the world. Stories change lives. Stories change us. Your life is a story. Write it well.
Well, so this is the magical power of story.
Picture our lives.
I'm sorry, a little bit of interruption here, I guess. A little bit of interruption there. Can you see my screen? If you can see me, you can give me a confirmation in the chat box. Yes, 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 yes. And could you see the video completely? Yes, great. So here we are back again. All right. So this is the magical power of stories. Stories shape us. Stories shapes human beings. And that is why this is my goal, to help aspiring writers become successful storytellers who stand out, help shape the world, and enjoy their life. And this is why I'm doing all these things. But it's not easy. Every fiction writer has to make a career by crossing 5 trials by fire. अग्नि परीक्षा है ये. हर राइटर को अग्नि परीक्षा से गुजरना पड़ता है. और वो अग्नि परीक्षा किस फॉर्म में आती है? तो बहुत से फॉर्म्स में आती है, अलग अलग फॉर्म्स में आती है. देयर आर वेरियस वेज दीज ट्रायल्स बाय फायर कैन हैपन इन अ राइटर्स लाइफ. सो आई एम गोइंग टू इंट्रोड्यूस टू you to some of them and share with you the ways how you are going to overcome them. Now let's face it, this is the scenario of a writing market. It is so crowded, everybody wants to become a writer. There are so many writers out there, everybody has one story to tell. Do you agree? This is the scenario of the market. If you agree with me that market is crowded, there are many writers, let me know in the chat box. Yes, yes, yes. Everybody wants to write a story. Everybody wants to tell a story. Then, in such a crowded market, the goal of a guy who wants to build a solid rocket-like career in it, this is what he must do. He must stand out. Do you agree? A guy with his stories in his writing must stand out like that. Totally. Yes, yes. But the scenario as it goes in real life, in order to stand out, only talent is not enough. Talent is required. Yes, talent is required. But talent is not enough. What you also need is to know the tricks of the trade. You can be an MBA, you can be a doctor, but you need to know the tricks of that trade to succeed. Similarly, in fiction writing, you need to know the strategies and the tools and the tricks of the trade. What makes a writing work? You have to know what makes writing work. Now, there are certain institutions which teach about them, but it is not accessible to all the people, all the young aspiring writers across India, because certain institutes, I won't name them, but many institutes are there who will charge you 2 lakh rupees, 2.5 lakh rupees, 3 lakh rupees. Expensive courses, long-term courses, but they are not accessible to everybody. So me and my fraternity, we have seen like 20-25 years, we have been seeing this. Young writers come, approach us, somehow they find to manage to find our contacts. They come to us, they give us our stories. They say, sir, read करके बता देना, पढ़ के बता देना. बट वेरी ऑनेस्टली, आई विल बी वेरी ऑनेस्ट विथ यू, इतना टाइम नहीं हो पाता है कि हर किसी की कहानी आप पढ़ोगे, उसको फीडबैक दोगे, उसको गाइड करोगे. ये सब हो नहीं पाता है. इसलिए बहुत सारे यंग राइटर्स सिर्फ दरवाजों पर घंटियां बजाते हुए रह जाते हैं और उनके करियर का कुछ हो नहीं पाता. इस प्रॉब्लम को जब हमने महसूस किया तो हमने यही करने की अब कोशिश की है। स्टोरी क्राफ्ट जो हमने बनाया है वो सिर्फ इसीलिए ही बनाया है कि हम लोगों को अफोर्डेबल और एक्सेसिबल राइटिंग एजुकेशन दे सकें। And today is the beginning of this journey for you all with us. And today we have 3-point learning agenda. You are going to learn something very significant today. And there are going to be 3 points. Point number 1, how to write faster and better. Number 1 is how to write faster and better. Number 2 is how to sell your stories faster and better. Because everybody is interested in that. We will keep writing stories at home and nobody is going to read them and nobody is going to buy them. What's the use? It is not a career. It's a hobby. So point number 2, what we are going to learn is how to sell faster and better. And number 3, how to strategically grow your career. Please pay attention to this word strategically. You need to have a strategy to build a career. And the entire promise of this webinar is how to fast track your fiction writing career. So I'm going to talk to you about this strategy which will help you in growing your career. So this is our 3-point learning agenda. And I guess we start with the first one now. So let's begin. The first one is how to write faster and better. And we are going to spend a significant amount of time doing this because, as I said earlier, stories are the foundation of a career in writing. It's a foundation. So we are going to spend a significant amount of time here understanding how to write faster and better. I'm going to give you tools now. So pick up your pen and paper. Take out your cameras if you have. If you want to take a screenshot, you can do that. You can take notes, cut all the distractions away. Do not get distracted. Pay attention to what's there on slide and what I am talking about, because the tools, the bits, the learning starts here. First, here is a question for you all. Why do I want to write a story is a question every writer must answer for himself or herself. Usually, writers start writing stories, but this question does not occur to them. This is not fair. Every writer worth his work must know, why do I want to write a story? What is the purpose of writing this particular story? I'll try to give you an example, the popular examples. We'll take 2 names. One is Rajkumar Hirani and one is Rohit Shetty. So if I have to ask you, please let me know in the chat box, what kind of stories Rajkumar Hirani tells? Because I have a story to tell about a word. Inspirational stories of change and love, yes, with message. Some sort of social message. Social message. Motivational, uplifting, yes. So when I ask you what kind of stories Rajkumar Hirani tells, you can clearly say, unanimously say, he has a purpose of bringing some social reforms with entertainment. That's his purpose of writing a story. He's not writing a story because he's passionate about a story. He's writing his stories with a clear-cut purpose. Now, if I have to take you to the other end of the spectrum, अगर मुझे आपको दूसरे spectrum के end में ले जाना होगा, तो रोहित शेट्टी की बात पूछूंगा मैं आपसे। अब आपको यही जवाब रोहित शेट्टी के लिए देना है। रोहित शेट्टी की फिल्में किस पर्पस से लिखी जाती है? ओनली एंटरटेनमेंट, मसाला एंटरटेनमेंट, एक्शन एंड ड्रामा, एक्शन, प्योर एंटरटेनमेंट, एस्केपिस्ट सिनेमा, एंटरटेनमेंट, पैसा वसूल एंटरटेनमेंट। यस, सो रोहित शेट्टी की भी एक छाप होती है अपनी कहानी के ऊपर, राजकुमार हिरानी की भी एक छाप होती है। सो हमें कोई हक नहीं है ये कहने का कि ये अच्छा है या ये बुरा है, लेकिन मेरा पॉइंट ये है आपको दिखाने का कि हर राइटर, हर अच्छा राइटर अपनी कहानी एक पर्पस के साथ में लिखता है। सो फर्स्ट एंड फॉरमोस्ट आई वांट यू टू डू टुडे इज गेट योर पर्पस राइट। You can change your purpose with each story, but when you sit down to write a story, have a clear-cut purpose. Is this story to entertain? Is this story to educate? Is this story to inform? Is this story to effect some social change? Is it a story to inspire? What is your purpose? I'm not going to give you your purpose, but you have to be very, very clear in your purpose. Always ask this question before you start putting pen to paper. अपनी कहानी लिखना शुरू करने से पहले, आइडिया के स्टेज में, जब आपको एक आइडिया आया, आपको लगने लगा है कि अब मुझे कहानी लिखनी है, उस वक्त आपको ये तय कर लेना है, why do I want to write that story? अगर आपको उस पर क्लैरिटी नहीं मिलती और कुछ ऐसे आंसर मिलते हैं क्योंकि ठीक लग रहा है, क्योंकि मजा आ रहा है, शायद अच्छी लगेगी, इस तरीके के ढीले ढाले आंसर अगर आपको मिल रहे हैं, तो आपको और सोचना है, आपको शायद दूसरा आइडिया लेना है. Is that clear? If you are clear about the purpose of your own, please let me know in the chat box so I can move to the next point. Yes, 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 yes. All right. Now, this is a very important point, and this is where the trap lies. Misconceptions about process of story writing. If you see, there are a lot of misconceptions in everybody's head. People think writing is a creative job, and of course it is. But I want to tell you, it's not only purely a creative job. It's not. Story writing is actually a three-legged stool. 3 पैरों पर खड़ा होता है ये कहानी का कारोबार. लोग सोचते हैं ये सिर्फ क्रिएटिविटी का काम है. नहीं. स्टोरी क्रिएटिविटी, साइंस और साइकोलॉजी, इन 3 चीजों से मिलकर बनती है. साइंस भी बहुत ज्यादा इन्वॉल्व है. A story stands on the 3 legs of creativity, science, and psychology. And that is why usually people think, imagine कर लिया, कुछ लिख दिया, कहानी बन गई, that's it. No. You have to structure it with science and technique. And then I'm going to cover these aspects in detail, where I'm going to talk about the psychology. And when I say psychology, it's not the psychology of people. It's not कि psychology की 4 किताबें पढ़ ली, psychology समझ ली. No. What I mean is the psychology of the writer himself, psyche of the writer himself, the writer himself. So these 3 things impact the kind of stories you write. So I am suggesting here the best process to stand out as a writer. How do you write? You write with this process. Look inside for ideas. What do I mean by look inside for ideas? Usually people look around for ideas. When I ask youngsters, aspiring writers, कहाँ से लाते हो आइडियाज, नए आइडियाज कहाँ से लाते हो? तो जैसे न्यूज से लाते हैं, अखबारों से लाते हैं, आसपास की दुनिया देखकर लाते हैं. What I'm going to tell you today is absolutely in contrast to that. When you are looking and sourcing for ideas from newspapers and television news and other places like that, if you can see there, other people also can see there. There is only one place where only you can see is inside your own heart. So you have to bring in your ideas from inside your heart. It's a huge library. Your own heart is a huge library of characters, events, memories, experiences. You have to turn them into stories. It's not necessarily you always write story of yourself, but you take from there and then you present the story of other characters. But always look inside for ideas. Stop looking around. Got that? Second, define the premise with a belief. Now, premise is a very deep topic in terms of writing. Some people call it premise. It's the US and UK English difference. So the premise, what is premise? If you Google what is premise, you are going to get all the contrasting views. They're all right, but it becomes so confusing. So I have come up with a solution, a definition for premise. A story's premise. It's the writer's belief on a particular problem. So you define the premise with your own belief. Third thing is understand the story map. Now, what is story map? Story map is a tool which I have created. I'm going to give you a lot of details about it as we go further. But for now, you have to understand in the process part that you have to understand the story map. Now, number 4, research the right way. When I say research the right way, what do I mean? What is the wrong way of researching? Wrong way of researching is कि मुझे कोई आइडिया आया, मुझे कोई थॉट प्रोसेस आया और मैंने कि एक डॉक्टर की कहानी लिखनी है और फिर मैंने मेडिसिन की किताबें झाड़नी शुरू कर दी, मेडिकल साइंस पढ़ डाला. That's the wrong way of research. You have to first outline your story. You have to first create your characters and then raise certain questions of technicalities. And with those questions, you have to go and research to find the answers of those questions. That saves a lot of time. Otherwise, research can go forever without yielding much result. आपकी कहानी में कुछ उसका आएगा भी नहीं. आपने पूरा मेडिकल साइंस पढ़ लिया, लेकिन डॉक्टर तो कहानी में सर्जरी एक ही करेगा ना, 4 ही वर्ड आएंगे उसके. तो आपको इस बात का ध्यान रखना है. और फाइनली आपकी कहानी कंप्लीट होनी चाहिए. It should be a complete story that says something solid, जैसे राजकुमार हिरानी और रोहित शेट्टी का मामला किया था. Similarly, your story has to say something solid or at least do something solid. If it has to entertain like a Rohit Shetty film, it must entertain you well. If it has to be a social reform satire, it has to do it well. So this has to be your process. Look inside for ideas, define the premise with belief, understand the story map, research the right way, and complete a story that says or does something solid. You got that? If you are with me so far, Sanchit is asking, can you please explain the second point again? Second point is define the premise with a belief. Every story has a premise. But what is the premise of a story? The argument on which the story's logics are based. Story is a fictional thing. So you have to have a premise, an argument on which all the logics are based. By example, a Superman story. Now, Superman can't be destroyed at all. Now, the premise is superheroes हो सकते हैं, सही दुनिया में नहीं होता. असली दुनिया में हमने ऐसा कभी आदमी देखा नहीं. लेकिन प्रीमाइस राइटर की बिलीफ ये है कि ऐसा इंसान हो सकता है. अगर राइटर खुद बिलीव नहीं करेगा, वो सुपरमैन की कहानी नहीं लिख सकेगा. दिस इज द पॉइंट. यू गॉट दैट, संजय? Yes, a story map. Don't worry about the story map. I'm going to cover story map in quite a lot of details as we move forward. What is a story map? We are going to talk about it. So with this process, which I have just explained to you, when you come up with a story, and as I said, story is the foundation of all the content, you can take this story and turn it into a novel. You can turn it into a movie. You can turn it into a web series, a short story, a television show, and a short film, anything. Always focus on the story first. Always focus on the, ये लिख लो आप. There is a request requesting you to kindly use more of English. All right. While explaining, thank you. Perfect. I'll do that. So please note this down. Story is the foundation of everything. You can turn a story into anything, because stories, as I have always maintained, are medium agnostic. It doesn't matter to stories where they are going, which platform they are going, which medium they are going into. Stories are medium agnostic. You can take the same story, make a novel out of it, and make a film out of it, and after that adapt it to a web series. Do you all agree? That story has that kind of flexibility and power. Always focus on stories. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes. So here is this piece of advice. Many people focus too much on screenplays, novel narratives. Yes, that's important. I'm not saying those things are not important. They are very important, but they are after stories. Focus on the stories. With this process, last 10 months, we have ran 2 batches of our courses, and we have created certain superstar writers whose career is already taken shape. They are flying with their wings. So I want you to listen to one of the students, that what she has to say, what kind of change.
Hi. Um, so I had this major problem that even when I have thought of a story, even if I know the characters and I've made this timeline, I would never be able to put it on paper, the whole story. So many stories I would end it inside my head only, but rejected and everything. But the ones that I would write on this paper, by the middle of it I'll be like, it's not working, or maybe it's not as good as I thought it would be. And because of all those reasons, I never knew what I was, where I was going wrong, but I would always like, oh, let's just stop this. But because of this class, we also taught how writing is also an art, but it also has technicalities to it, which when kept together can actually make you complete a story. I am so overwhelmed. I didn't even believe it while I was sharing the document with Viru, so that I completed the whole story, which I thought would never happen. I have I've also, more than technicalities, I've learned the discipline of being a writer. I've I've learned how, where and when to use brain, and where and when to use heart in a story. It is so, like, I never knew all these things existed. But Virusa explains it so well. I now know what problems I faced even then while writing, and I can recognize what are the issues even in me as a writer. Like, as a person, the discipline that it takes, those laziness, those fear of rejection, and all those problems, he really fixes them, and he did it for me, and I'm so grateful. I cannot ever be enough grateful for it. And Virasar also teaches you in such a way that it doesn't feel too intimidating. Like, he will guide you through, but he will never order you, and that's why it was easier for me to complete it. I could see myself becoming into this person who is having such confidence in her own story, which I never had before. And that is because of Viru sir's confidence. And I'm just even if the class is ended, I'm surely gonna call him again and again for all the doubts that I have till I complete and first story, and I'm gonna write more, and I already have like 2-3 ideas on mind again. And it's all because of the class. I didn't know, like, 15 days of a class could change so much into the craft of it. So unbelievable. Thank you so much.
Now this is Manali. Now she's so sweet that she keeps saying Viru sir, Viru sir, Viru sir. But the idea is not to tell you how great Viru sir is. Idea is that when you work on those tiny little bits of your own psyche, of your own working style, of your own confidence level, magic can happen. So many writers, young writers come to me saying, sir, हम लोग कहानी लिखना शुरू करते हैं. We start with an idea, but we get stuck somewhere. Very minor tweaks, understanding of very minor tweaks can actually change your life drastically. So pay attention to what is coming next. It can happen because lack of mastery over science of stories. The getting stuck business, not going anywhere, not knowing where to approach, who to go to, who to give for publishing. All these things can happen because of the lack of mastery over story. So I'm going to give you the science of story in the form of a story map. What you see on screen is the story map. Can you see it on screen? If you guys see a story map on screen, you can let me know on the chat box. Yes, 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 yes. Wonderful. I'm giving you a moment to absorb this map into your head. I'm going to explain what this is, but just absorb the picture. अपने ब्रेन में छुपा लो इसको. Have a closer look. Done? देख लिया ध्यान से? Have you watched it enough in silence? Haha, always a question. Should there always be there be a villain in the story map? Yes, sir. Yes. We'll talk about the villain. We are soon going to talk about the villain. Gabbar Singh need not be the villain all the time. Yes. All right. So I'm going to show you another video which is going to explain the story map to you. Now this version of video that I'm playing today is going to be in Hindi, and after that I'm going to explain the map in English for all the people. So here it goes. कहानी का नक्शा. हर कामयाब राइटर और स्टोरी टेलर अपने ब्रेन के लॉकर में यह नक्शा छुपाकर घूमता है, और जैसे ही उसके सामने एक नई कहानी गढ़ने का वक्त आता है, वो अपने बंद कमरे में वो नक्शा निकालकर शुरू हो जाता है. वो जानता है नक्शे की इंपॉर्टेंस. आपका नक्शा आपको किसी भी तरह की कहानी कम टाइम में लिखने के लिए मदद कर सकता है. ये नक्शा आपको बिना उलझे, बिना भटके अपनी कहानी पूरी करने में मदद करेगा. तो चलिए अब देखते हैं उस नक्शे को, और ध्यान से देखिएगा, क्योंकि इसे आपने अपने ब्रेन के लॉकर में बंद करना है. वैसे नक्शा है बड़ा सिंपल, मगर अक्सर होता यह है कि लिखते वक्त नक्शे का कोई हिस्सा एक स्टोरी टेलर या तो भूल जाता है या इग्नोर करने की गलती कर बैठता है. इसलिए तो इस दुनिया में बहुत सी ऐसी कहानियां भी बन जाती हैं जो लोगों को अच्छी नहीं लगती. आज आपने इस नक्शे को दिमाग में ऐसे बिठा लेना है कि कभी कोई छोटी सी भी बात आपसे ना छूटे. इस नक्शे में पहला आइटम होता है एक किरदार, एक कैरेक्टर, जिसे हीरो कहते हैं, और उसके सामने होती है एक प्रॉब्लम. इस नक्शे में उस किरदार से कुछ दूरी पर रखा होता है उस प्रॉब्लम का सॉल्यूशन, मगर उस सॉल्यूशन तक पहुंचना इतना आसान नहीं होता. बीच में होता है एक कठिन रास्ता. उस रास्ते में छोटी मोटी बहुत कठिनाइयां होती हैं, मगर कुछ ऐसी गलियां भी छुपी होती हैं जो सीधे दिखाई नहीं देती। मगर जब अपना किरदार उन्हें ढूंढ लेता है तो वो सॉल्यूशन तक पहुंचने का रास्ता आसान बना देती हैं। एक और किरदार होता है, एक विलेन, जो नहीं चाहता ये सॉल्यूशन हीरो को मिल जाए, और हीरो को रोकने के लिए ये विलेन कुछ भी कर सकता है, किसी भी हद तक जा सकता है। और अब फाइनली नक्शे की आखिरी 3 चीजें। पहली, कुछ ऐसे किरदार जो या तो हीरो की मदद करते हैं या फिर विलेन की। दूसरी, वो दुनिया जहां ये कहानी हो रही है। और तीसरी, एक ऐसा ट्विस्ट जो देखने सुनने वाले के दिल और दिमाग को निचोड़ के रख दे। तो ये है नक्शा किसी भी कहानी का। हां, किसी भी कहानी का। ये आप तरह तरह की कहानियां उठाकर चेक भी कर सकते हैं। इस नक्शे को अपने दिमाग में बिठा लीजिए। Alright. So this is the story map in which there is a hero, which we also call the protagonist. But to keep things simple, I want to keep it as hero. Then there is a villain who is a antagonist. There is a conflict between these two, and the story is all about a journey of hero from a problem to a solution. Story is that simple. All the complexities, how they arrive, I'm going to tell you later in a while. But always keep in mind, story is a very simple structure. Now, there are so many questions which have come. Is the villain required? Can hero be the villain himself? Is villain mandatory? Should there always be a message? Please keep your questions ready. I will not be answering them right now, but in the end of the session, all these questions one by one, I am certainly going to answer. No question will be left unanswered today. All your queries, all your doubts are going to be clarified. Just it cannot be, for practical purposes, it cannot be done as we are going along. So keep your questions coming, remember them, and as we get into the question answer session in the end of the webinar, I'm going to address all of them. Somebody is asking, will we get the recording for future reference? Of course you will. So you don't worry about it. You are going to get all this material for all your references. I want you to carry all this knowledge with you all your life. So now, since you have seen the story map, the simplicity of it, I want you to give you 3 techniques. Number 1, the technique for foundation level. This is the most important technique. How to build a hero who comes alive. When you build characters, it's your endeavor to make them look like real people. So how do you build a hero who comes alive? Second is how to create a problem, the problem that you saw in the story map. How to create a problem that's worthy of a story. Not all problems are worthy of a story. We'll see how. How to create a dream resolution. What do I mean by dream resolution? Super end. How do you create that? And finally, how to build a villain who guarantees excitement. Now, there are a lot of people bubbling with questions about villain, the question of his own existence itself. But we are going to talk about him. These are more important points. The technique of outline, creating event of establishment. Now, don't get bogged down by big words here. Each of them I'm going to explain as we progress. The technique of outlining. Outlining a story is a simple 5-step process. Simple 5-step process. Unfortunately, many of young writers never complete their outline because they don't know this. It's not a tough job, it's an easy job. Creating event of establishment, creating event of engagement, creating event of excitement, creating event of enlightenment, and creating event of extreme action. Just these 5 events make your story outline complete. What they are, what do I mean by these events? I'm going to explain to you as we go along. And then there is technique of building 6 acts. In between these 5 events, we have 6 acts. Act of seed, act of desire, act of trial, act of defeat, act of transformation, act of resolution. Again, don't get bogged down by these words. We are going to see what they are. They're simple stuff. And once you know them, you know why the names are so difficult. Because they mean exactly what they are trying to mean. So this is how you build 6 acts. Once you employ these 3 techniques, this problem gets resolved. The problem that you see on screen, can you see it on screen? Not knowing what is relevant and what is not. Can you see it on screen? Yes. Yes. This is a major problem. When a writer sits down to write, bubbling with ideas, he will write thousands and thousands of words, fill pages after pages, and now so there is computer, so he will just type everything out, but not knowing what is relevant and what is not. After writing so much, also the story never looks like, I have a story in place. This can happen to many of us. This happened to us still. Many a times this happens, but this happens to us when we ignore certain techniques in our ghamand, arrogance that we know everything. Is that arrogance? These things happen to us as well. So not knowing what is relevant and what is not is very big problem, and we need to solve it. And that's why the techniques, all you need to know is 4 parameters of hero, problem, solution, villain, events, and acts. That's it. Everything is irrelevant. So what are these things जिनके नाम मैं बार बार ले रहा हूं? Somebody saying, please show the last 2 slides again. Not required, please, because I'm going to take you into the details of those slides now. Okay, so first question first. What makes a character come alive? What do you think? If I have to ask you to answer this question, what makes a character come alive? Relatability, relatable traits, desire and flaws, to feel myself, character in the story, character story. Wonderful. What else? His other value system, intention of the character, connecting to the audience. Wonderful. Personality. A person in the most unexpected situation, realistic, his or her feelings, actions, his objective, emotions, character's pain, perspective, enigma. There are so many answers. See, this is the whole point. Now, none of the answer is wrong. Answer कोई भी गलत नहीं है. But it doesn't make life easy for a writer. If there are so many things which makes a character alive, how on earth you are going to bring a character alive in the first place? If so many things are required, all of them are required. So these are the 4 things, precisely these 4 things. You don't need anything else. You don't need anything else. These are the 4 things you require to give your character, and the character will come alive. Feeling. What is his key feeling? What is his key thinking? What is his key action? Key action. What is his key desire? Feeling, thinking, action, and desire. Now, some people always feel scared. Some people always feel happy. Some people always feel irritated. Some people always feel angry. Some people always feel ecstatic. Some people always feel energetic. This feeling is key feeling. A character is known by his key feeling. अरे वो irritated आदमी है, अरे वो गुस्सैल आदमी है. People are known by that. Key thinking. बड़े बड़े शहरों में छोटी छोटी बातें होती रहती हैं, सेनोरिटा. The famous dialogue. It's a thinking of a character. You should know your character's key thinking, how he thinks. Action. What is the key action? What is he very good at? I'm not talking about profession here. What is his key action? Is he a boxer? Not by profession. Does he always fight? He can defeat anybody in a boxing ring, even if he's not a professional boxer. He's a student, housewife. What is the key action of the character? And then finally, the most important thing, the key desire of the character. What is the character's key desire? What does he want? उसे चाहिए क्या जिंदगी में? एक कैरेक्टर को जिंदगी में चाहिए क्या है, ये जानना एक राइटर के लिए बड़ा जरूरी है. और यही 4 चीजें जान ले राइटर, उसका काम खत्म हो जाता है. एक्सक्यूज मी. बहुत सारे पन्ने भरने की जरूरत नहीं है. यू डोंट नीड टू फिल पेजेस आफ्टर पेजेस आफ्टर पेजेस राइटिंग अबाउट अ कैरेक्टर. ओनली थिंग्स विच help you clarify feeling, thinking, action and desire is all you need to write. Here are certain characters which have been like really famous and liked by people. Now you may wonder that their clothes, their mannerisms, their styles, their way of speaking, all these things actually make them likable. No. Because you see these characters, a car and a rat, do you see them on screen? Yes, yes. They are equally likable, aren't they? They are equally likable like Amitabh Bachchan and Amrish Puris of the world. Because this car has a feeling, a thinking, an action and a desire. Ratatouille, the rat, has a feeling, a thinking, an action and a desire. You give these 4 things to any object in this world and it will become a character which comes alive. So note these 4 things down. Key feeling, key thinking, key activity and key desire. You have to just give these 4 things to your character and your character is done. You don't have to look elsewhere. Got that? If you got that, give me a confirmation on the chat box so I can move to the next point, the problem of a story. Yes, 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 yes. Now let's look at the problem. In the story map, there is a hero and there is a problem in front of him. What kind of a problem? Again, a question in front of you. For a problem to be a worthy of a story, it must be, fill in the blank, please, for me. Extremely difficult, difficult, personal, difficult to overcome, relevant, challenging, practical, extreme, relatable, logical, solvable. Again, so many answers. And again, so many right answers. I will give you 4 characteristics of the problem as well. It should be a hot problem. And what do I mean by a hot problem? A hot problem is like a hot potato. You can't drop it because you want to eat it, but you can't hold it because you can't hold a hot thing. ना छोड़ते बनता है ना पकड़ते बनता है, लेकिन you can't simply walk away from this problem. You have to live with this problem and you will have to see to it that you solve it. So the problem that you give to your hero has to have this characteristic that the hero cannot simply walk away from it. It should be an active problem. What do I mean by active problem? Active problem is like a running train. Even if the hero is not doing anything to solve this problem, the problem is going to run him over. मैं अगर पटरी से उठ के नहीं भाग रहा तो ट्रेन मेरे ऊपर चल के जाने वाली है. अगर मैं प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व नहीं कर रहा तो ये प्रॉब्लम मेरी जिंदगी तबाह करने वाली है. सो आई कांट इग्नोर द प्रॉब्लम. आई कांट से हाँ कोई प्रॉब्लम है, ठीक है, कुछ नहीं करूंगा. आई कांट से दैट. So the problem that you choose for your character has to be an active problem. What next? It must be causing a visible loss. Now, if you have to tell me in the picture that you see, what is lost here? What is being lost? Water, 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 water. Valuable resource, water. Now, if I have to ask another question to you, is this loss really a loss for somebody who does not need to take bath, who does not want to take bath, who is not thirsty? Is this a loss at all? No. So simply because water is going away, that does not mean a loss. You have to ensure that the problem is going to cause a visible loss to the hero. If what he has got a broken bucket, hero must be thirsty, or hero must be going to take a bath or do any other things we use water for. But there has to be a correlation. In a desert, yes, very right. So you have to see to it that the problem that you have given to your hero is actually going to cause a terrible loss to the hero. If the solution doesn't matter to the hero, your story will fall apart. It won't stand. And finally, the problem must be posing a clear-cut threat. Clear-cut threat. What is the threat here? In the picture here, what is the threat? Sinking, dying, drowning, sinking, drowning. Boat as a whole, sinking. Yes. So this problem is actually a very clear-cut threat that if this hole is not dealt with, if this problem is not solved, the hero might die, drown, unless he knows swimming. So this category, this correlation, you have to build. So you select a problem which is a hot problem, which is an active problem, which is giving a clear loss and a clear threat. Got that? So far with me? Yes, yes. All right. Now let's look at the solution. Now, when there is a problem, there has to be a solution. Solution can be anything the writer chooses. Many people have a question. Many films don't come with a solution. They all do. That these are the finer things which I want to see. Even seemingly not solved problems get resolved by compromise. But a compromise is also a solution. So let's look at the solution. The solution in the story has to be a dream solution. Now, this is an acronym I have created so that you all can remember it well, easily. DREAM is an acronym for difficult, risky, emotional, actionable, and memorable. The solution that you provide through your hero has to be difficult to achieve. Risky. If you are going for the solution, it should be risky. And that is why in all the stories, when there is fire in the building and the heroine is stuck inside, the hero actually goes inside himself and brings people out. He doesn't throw water. He goes in. It should be emotional. It should be actionable. And it should be memorable. So you can note this down. The solution that you offer through your story has to be a dream solution. Difficult, risky, emotional, actionable, and memorable. And now finally, everybody's favorite topic. The villain. Now here I want to tell you one thing. The moment somebody says villain or the story map demands that you have a villain in your story, it does not mean it has to be a Gabbar Singh. A villain is also a human being. A mother can be a villain in the story of a child who wants to eat chocolate every day. Have a villain in place. It is fashionable nowadays somehow when people say we don't want to have a villain in the story. Villain need not be Gabbar Singh. Villain can be a normal human being. A father can be a villain. A mother can be a villain. A sister can be a villain. A brother can be a villain. It is just opposing to what hero wants. So that brings me to the characteristics of the hero. Now have a look on your screen. A villain's characteristics also are the same. Key feeling, key thinking, key activity, and key desire. All you have to do exactly the same thing what you did for the hero. You have to build the villain with these four things. Key feeling, key thinking, key activity, and key desire. You created two human beings, two related human beings. And this is the relationship between a hero and a villain. I call it a coin toss relationship. There are only three outcomes. Either the hero will win, or the villain will win, or perhaps there will be a compromise. The coin will stand. There are only these three outcomes. So you have to ensure that hero's desire and villain's desires are such that if hero gets his desire fulfilled, the villain's desire will remain unfulfilled, and vice versa. This is the relationship between the hero and villain. Heroes and villains' desires are conflicting, and that is what you call the conflict in the story. This is what we call the conflict in the story. There is a question that can you please explain key activity with an example. I will give you a quick example. A housewife, a good housewife, a good mother is a key activity. If you got any more doubts, we will deal with this in the question and answer session. Let me come back to the topic at hand. The relationship between hero and the villain. It has to be conflicting. हीरो की डिजायर फुलफिल होने वाली है तो विलेन की नहीं होगी, विलेन की होने वाली है तो हीरो की नहीं होगी. आपको ये डिजायर्स ऐसे बनानी है. Once this is done, 50% of your job as a writer is actually done. You are ready to tell a very good story. So you have reached the idea level, and now let's do what makes a story outline. What makes a story outline? 5 explosive events make a story outline. That's it. लिखते मत बैठो. Come up with these 5 explosive events. Put your mental bandwidth into coming up with these 5 explosive events. This is where they are. Boom, 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 boom. And this is where they sit. Event of establishment. Now, this is an event where you tell your reader or your audience about key feeling, key thinking, key activity, and key desire about your characters. Hero and the villain, that's it. As simple as that. So you have to design an event or a series of events which can explosively establish this is the key thinking, feeling, desire, and activity of my hero is and my villain is. It can be one event, it can be a chain of events, but it has to be explosive in nature. Not all events, मैं सुबह उठ के brush करता हूँ, I brush my teeth every morning is not an explosive event. But if there is a black spider on my toothbrush and I am going to brush my teeth with it, it's an explosive event. You get the difference? Number 2, event of engagement. This is the point in your story where actually your audience, your reader gets hooked into your story. If he reads through this, he is not going to leave your story. That's why this is called event of engagement. And what happens here? Note this down because these notes are going to help you. Event of engagement. You tell about the problem here. Design an event or a chain of events which establishes the problem that the hero has. You already know he has a desire, now he has a problem. This is what happens here. Then comes the third event, event of excitement. And what is the role of event of excitement? In the event of excitement, the problem of the hero becomes threefold, multifold. And if you see on your screen, this is the midpoint of your story. कुछ लोग इसे interval भी कह सकते हैं. Some people can call this a twist. But this is the point an event happens where the problem of the hero becomes multifold. It looks like he will not be able to solve it at all. The story becomes exciting. And that is why this is called the event of excitement. Then comes event of enlightenment. What is enlightenment? Suddenly कोई idea आ गया. An idea occurred to you, some brainwave came to you, something that can solve this problem. Something which you didn't know before this. That's why enlightenment. So hero gets the moment of enlightenment in this event. He comes up with an idea. He gets an idea, which looks like he will be able to solve the problem now. This is where the character actually transforms into somebody else. Before this point, he had no idea how to solve the problem. This is the point of time. He is a different man. He is a changed man. Because he is enlightened. उसे आइडिया आ गया, उसे लर्निंग मिल गई, उसे सीख मिल गई. Now he is capable of solving the problem. And after that finally comes the event of extreme action, which we popularly know as climax. This is where the hero goes and take extreme action. Why extreme action? Because this is going to be an action which hero, the original hero, would never take. But after enlightenment, he is doing this. For him, it's an extreme action. So these are the 5 events you have to think about around this guy's life. Event of establishment, event of engagement, event of excitement, event of enlightenment, and event of extreme action. Just by heart this. That this is the flow in which the story gets crafted, and it will not even take 2 days for you to complete an outline of a story. 2 days. This is how it sits. These events sit on the story map. First you establish the hero, then you establish the problem, then you introduce the twist, then you bring in the event of enlightenment, and then you go to the extreme action. Now let's build the 6 acts now. Now these 6 acts actually intersperse in between these events. This is where 6 acts are. And this is what they are called: Act 0, Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, Act 4, Act 5. And we will name them. Seed of the problem. Act 0 is the seed of the problem. Every problem actually takes seed somewhere. So there is a question, so the villain is used for enlightenment? No, villain is not used for enlightenment. When the hero is actually face to face with the villain very closely, right in front of each other, that there comes the event of enlightenment. It can come from anywhere, but it happens in a moment when hero is absolutely in direct conflict with the villain. So Act 0 is seed of the problem. And as I said, every problem has a seed somewhere. You have to tell your reader, your audience, the seed of the problem here. After that, event of establishment happens and comes walk of desire. This is an event or events where we tell our audience how the hero is actually walking towards his desire. What are the efforts he's taking? A hero becomes a hero because he has a desire and he takes action for it. जो लोग सिर्फ सपने देखते बैठते रहते हैं वो हीरो नहीं बनते. So this is where we show some events. Then comes Act 2. The problem has already been introduced, and hero attempts to solve the problem. Again, a hero becomes a hero only because when a problem comes in front of him, he tries to solve the problem. He tries to solve the problem. He doesn't sit crying. He tries to solve the problem. But then event of excitement happens and the problem becomes multifold. Then comes Act 3, where hero is pained, hopeless, and searching. This is the lowest point. We said roller coaster of emotions. This is the lowest point in the life of the hero in the story. He's pained, hopeless, searching. He doesn't know, but he's still searching. He's a hero. And then comes event of enlightenment in this pathetic stage of his life. And once enlightenment happens, hero is alive again and he marches ahead. He takes extreme action. And then comes the final act, which is the proof of resolution, that the problem has been solved, either by the way of hero winning, hero losing, or a compromise. This is the trickiest part, which we do on the advanced level of the courses, the proof of resolution. This is the shortest, but the most important act in the whole story. So these 11 act structure, which I'm telling you about, Act 0, event of establishment. Act 1, event of engagement. Act 2, event of excitement. Act 3, event of enlightenment. Act 4, event of extreme action and proof of resolution. That's it. These 11 things you do, your story outline is complete, and you can start working on character arcs and the Bible that you want to build your story. So this is what it requires to be a creative, technical storyteller. You can do stuff quickly by the way of doing this. All right, so far with me? Yes. Yes, yes, yes. So let me have a sip of water before I dive into the very important psychological aspects. And we are going to talk about your psychology now, the writer's psychology, not the psychology of the reader or the audience. Creativity and imagination is one thing. This technique which I showed you is one thing, but a writer's psychology is the third most important thing in the fiction writing career. Fear of rejection is the most common thing that every writer faces. So if I have to ask you, how many of you in the room actually have faced, experienced, dealt with fear of rejection some point in time in their lives? Me, yes, 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 me, yes, yes, me. Yes, of course, everybody has. I did, I have, I still have, because it's a human thing to have. Not just fears or actual rejection. That also stems from fear of rejection. So it's a human thing. We all fear rejection. But the only way to deal with fear of rejection is to understand that rejection is not a rejection of you. Rejection is the rejection of the work. There is some flaw in it. It's a feedback. You have to understand that feedback and act upon it and then correct your mistakes. When somebody says, no, I don't want your story, no, I don't like your story, no, it's not good, he's trying to say something to you, but he doesn't know how to say it. You are the writer, it is your responsibility to read into the lines, read your story again, and find out in which parameter it doesn't pass. So just brush fear of rejection aside. It's a human thing. It's always going to be with us. But please do not let it impact your performance, your duties. Write every day. And give people to read your stuff every day. And then second part is lack of motivation. Fear of rejection is pulling you behind. Lack of motivation is not pushing you forward. It's not pushing you forward. अरे इससे क्या रिवॉर्ड्स मिलेंगे? राइटिंग से क्या रिवॉर्ड मिलेगा? कुछ नहीं होता. No, writing is a very, very highly rewarding career, and that's why there is so much of competition. You get people know you, you have fans, you are liked by so many people respect you, people are aspire to become like you. There is a lot of money, of course, good lifestyle, appreciation. What else do you need in life? But because we have tried and we have failed and we have not achieved all those things, we think now there is nothing left in writing and our motivation begins to go down. Don't let that happen. If you go with the techniques and the tools which I am sharing with you, and furthermore, we are going to talk about selling and building your career. When you implement all these things. All those rewards which I am talking about, which I am promising to you, will come showering at you. Fiction writing is a very, very, very rewarding career. Look at me. I am enjoying my life for 25 years of my life, and I know my entire fraternity. But you must succeed. But that goes with any career, doesn't it? So don't let lack of motivation stop you. Don't let fear of rejection pull you back. Write every day. Write with technique. So I will straight jump to the second aspect of it. How to sell faster and better, because everybody is interested in this. So shall we start on this?